Hello everyone, I am Sir NJ Javier and this is Reading and Writing Skills for Senior High. For this session, we will be dealing with the patterns of paragraph development. But before that, let us discuss a few things you need to know to better understand paragraph writing. Let's begin by defining what writing is. Writing is a skill. Basically, writing is a skill. Together with the other macro skills like listening, reading, speaking, and viewing, writing is a skill that we have to learn to better function in our daily lives. According to Noonan in 2003, writing is the combination of mentally inventing ideas, thinking how to express them, and organizing them into sentences and paragraphs that will make sense to a reader. Basically, Noonan is trying to say that writing is a process. It's a process of thinking of ideas, of making thoughts, generating thoughts, and then thinking on how you're going to deliver them. And finally, organizing or arranging them into sentences and paragraphs so your readers can understand them. Okay? Also, writing is a process that involves steps and methods to create a piece of writing. As we have said a while ago, writing is a process. Moreover, writing is considered to be an art because you use your imagination and creativity to express the emotions that you would like to share with your audience or with your readers. So it's not just a skill but an art. Also, writing may be a talent, but writing can also be learned and mastered. Many people are thinking of the thought that there are born writers, but actually you can be a writer if you really want to, because it is a skill, and a skill is something that you can learn and master later on. So writing can be learned and it can be mastered. Now that we know what writing is, let us now find out how writing should be done. Now, let's talk about writing, specifically the process of writing. There are different versions of the steps of the writing process, but these are the most consistent ones, beginning with the pre-writing stage. The pre-writing stage, from the prefix pre, meaning before writing, these are the things you can do before you write your paper. So this is the planning stage, and this is where you explore possible ideas or topics for you to write. This is also the part where you choose your audience and determine your purpose of writing. For who are you writing the paper for? And what is your purpose for writing this? So thinking and knowing about these things or these factors will help you better plan what you're going to write. Also, this is where you generate possible topics by taking an inventory of your interests, experiences, and ideas. So pre-writing stage is really more of planning about what you're going to write. There are actually different strategies that you can do and use in the pre-writing stage. Look at this. First is the listing or the brainstorming. This is where you generate and connect ideas about a topic. As we know, brainstorming, we just think of anything or everything that is related to a topic that we are trying to write about. So we generate as much ideas as we can about it, and then we connect them to create one general discussion of it. Second is the free writing stage or the free writing strategy. The free writing strategy is writing anything about a topic without much attention to correct language use. Many of us are restrained or afraid to write because we are being restrained by the strict rules and mechanics of correct language use. But in free writing strategy, what you are doing is you are writing anything that comes to your mind freely, without thinking or without paying much attention to the rules of grammar. By this, you can write as much as you possibly can about the topic you are intending to write about. Third is clustering or concept mapping. Here is the narrowing of a broad topic into specific topics. For example, you have already brainstormed about the topic you want to write about, and then you have made so much ideas about it. You have generated so many ideas about it. In clustering or concept mapping, you are able to identify which of those ideas are relevant to your paper and which are those which are not. Okay, so you can put at the center, for example, of a paper your topic, and then you can just put maps in there or webs of ideas which you think are important for you to put in your paper. Fourth strategy is journal writing. This one is very important, or this one can be very beneficial to you if you're going to write something that is personal or something that is experience-based, because journal writing is writing on personal experiences and ideas. So if you are intending to write a paper that is narrative in nature, or meaning telling a story, you can surely make use of a journal writing. And finally, this strategy is listing down ideas to organize your thoughts, and that is called outlining. Outlining is following a format and then arranging your ideas through that outline. Mind you guys, the use of an outline is very convenient, especially that when you're done with your outline, you can easily write the draft of your paper, because outlining is already the arrangement of all the thoughts you're going to put on your paper. We have discussed outlining already in the first semester during our EAPP class. So I believe this is familiar with you. So again, these are the 5 pre-writing strategies you can use. Now, let's go to the next step as after pre-writing, which is the drafting. So once you have already planned what you want to write about your paper, what you want to put about the topic, drafting is the next step. In here, you're going to put your ideas into sentences and paragraphs, meaning you are now going to write the first version of your paper or your essay. This is where you arrange your ideas in such a way that allows the reader to understand your message. So after you have brainstormed, after you have clustered or concept mapped your ideas, after you outline them, you are now going to write your draft or the first version of your essay. And once you are done drafting, you can go to the next step, and that is the revising. Revising is simply reviewing. You're going to review your draft. Here, you're going to rearrange your sentences, your paragraphs, add or remove some things you think are not important anymore. So, revising is simply correcting the draft. Okay? Reviewing your thoughts, you're considering your arguments, strengthening your evidences, or redefining your purpose. So all of these are what you do in the revising stage, reviewing. So again, so you will not be confused. The drafting is writing the first version of your essay, and then revising is reviewing the contents. Again, contents. Or in Filipino, nilalaman ng essay ninyo. Okay? After revising, we go to the next step, and this one is the technical side or the technical step, which is the editing and proofreading. If in revising, we review your content, the content of your essay, in editing and proofreading, what we do is we look at your work carefully, making sure that it is well designed and it serves its purpose. How? By proofreading. Proofreading is making sure that your paragraph or essay has correct grammar, spelling, and punctuations. So, if in your draft, you have put there all your ideas, and in revising, you have reviewed the ideas you have put in your draft. Now, in editing and proofreading, you now correct the mistakes in terms of your grammar, in terms of your tenses, in terms of your spelling, your punctuations, your format. So this is the technical side, okay? And then after you have edited and proofread your paper, now you can publish it, or you can make the final version. Write the final version of your essay, and of course later on submit it to your teacher or share it into something or a website so others can see it. So again, those are the steps in the writing process. We have the pre-writing stage or the planning stage. We have the drafting or the writing of the first version of your essay. And then we have revising, where we review the content of your essay. And then we have proofreading and editing, where we correct the technicalities of your paper. And then finally publishing, where we make the final version of your essay. To write a sentence is surely easy, but to write a paragraph may be a rather difficult one. Now let's learn more about paragraphs so we can manage to write one with ease. Here we'll be talking about the parts of a paragraph, the qualities of a good paragraph, and the means to achieve paragraph coherence. These are actually technical but very easy to understand. Let's begin with the parts of the paragraph. There are 3 parts of the paragraph. We have the topic sentence, which shows the main idea of the topic, or the main idea of the paragraph rather. Remember, the topic sentence is usually the first or the last sentence of a paragraph. So when you see a paragraph, read the first sentence carefully or the last one, because probably one of those is the topic sentence. The topic sentence is simply the topic of the whole paragraph. It is where the whole paragraph revolves around. Okay? And then if we have the topic, of course we have supporting details. These are pieces of information that provide specific details to the idea. So if you have the topic sentence as your topic of the whole paragraph, the supporting ideas will be the ones that will discuss the topic. For example, you would say, I like eating. That's the topic sentence. And then you can put there any other things that will explain why you like eating. So you can say, I like eating. I like sweet foods. I also like salty foods. I basically like any food. When I was young, my mom would tell me that I am always found at the kitchen. I was always found at the kitchen eating the snacks from the fridge. So all of those are the supporting details explaining your topic, that is, I like eating. Okay? And then we have also another part here, that is conclusion, which is a statement or a summary of the ideas discussed in the paragraph. But guys, the conclusion is not really that necessary or that important, because the topic sentence and the supporting ideas details will do the whole paragraph. They are enough to make a good paragraph. Okay, we have the topic sentence there as a topic, and then supporting details to discuss the topic. Okay? Now let's talk about the qualities of a good paragraph. There are also a lot of things or attributes that are being considered to call a paragraph a good one. But these 3 are the most common ones. First, we have unity. Unity or oneness. It is the oneness of the idea discussed in the paragraph. Of course, we want a good paragraph. If we want a good paragraph, we need to make sure that our paragraph is discussing one topic only. Okay? We cannot make a long paragraph discussing a lot of different things, because it will be confusing for the readers. So make sure that there is unity in your paragraph. There is oneness in the idea. Second is coherence. Coherence is somewhat similar with unity, but coherence is more of the logical flow of details between and among sentences and paragraphs. Meaning, how did you connect the first sentence, the second sentence, the third sentence, and the ideas they contain? So it's about coherence. So unity talks about oneness of the topic, and then coherence is about connections between the sentences in your paragraph. And then finally, we have development. This is the strategy that you used in developing the idea. How did you develop the idea? Or how did you discuss the idea? Did you discuss it by telling a story? Did you discuss it by giving descriptions, by giving definitions, or by comparing it or contrasting it with another topic? So that's the development. Again, these 3 are the qualities of a good paragraph. Now let's talk about means to achieve paragraph coherence. Means here means ways, strategies, techniques. So we are talking about techniques to achieve paragraph coherence. First is the use of transitional devices. Transitional, from the word transition. Transition means transferring from one to another one. It's like when you're making a TikTok video and you will have to change your outfit, for example, and you need to think of a transition effect. So transitional devices are like that. They are words and phrases that connect and relate ideas, sentences, and paragraphs to have a logical flow of ideas as they signal the relationships between sentences and paragraphs. Look at this example. There are ways you can make boring tasks more pleasant. For instance, listen to music or sing along with the music while you work. Here, you see that we have two sentences. The first one is there are ways you can make boring tasks more pleasant, and the other one is listen to music or sing along with the music while you work. These two sentences are connected using a transitional device, and that is the phrase for instance. Again, for instance here is an example of a transitional device denoting that the following sentence is an example. Okay? So, there are ways you can make boring tasks more pleasant. What way? Example of a way. For instance, listen to music or sing along with the music while you work. So, for instance there indicates that the following sentence is an example of the first one. That is what we mean by transitional devices. There are actually a lot of transitional devices. You can search them on the internet and you can actually look at your modules to find out the others. Another thing or way for you to achieve paragraph coherence is by observing parallel structure or parallelism. Parallel means same structure. Okay, so it is the use of similar pattern or grammatical form within a sentence or paragraph to achieve paragraph coherence. Look at the example here. During a pandemic, most people are afraid, anxious, and cautious. So here, the writer is consistent about using the adjectives, one-word adjectives. So parallel structure. Another example, reading a book, listening to music, and watching movies are just some of the things that people do to pass away the time. So here, the writer consistently used adjectives like reading, listening, and watching. Final example here, the parents picked up the modules, the students answered the activities, and the teachers checked their outputs. So we have here picked up, answered, and checked as our verbs, and all of them are in past tense consistently. Okay? So this is what we mean by parallel structure or parallelism. We use similar pattern. Another means to achieve paragraph coherence is the observance of pronoun reference. Pronouns must always refer clearly to the nouns they represent, or what we call antecedent. You have been taught of using pronouns and observing their antecedents since your elementary days. Simply put, guys, when you're going to use a pronoun, there is always an antecedent, of course. The antecedent is the noun the pronoun is trying to replace. Make sure that the pronoun is clearly representing the noun it represents. Look at this. This is an unclear version. This is quite confusing. The teacher listened to Ella and she did not understand what she was trying to say. So in this sentence, we have two persons involved. We have the teacher and Ella. But we use only one pronoun, and that is she. Now, what is confusing here is that we are not sure whether the pronoun she is referring to the teacher or referring to Ella. The teacher listened to Ella and she did not understand what she was trying to say. So who is not understanding what she was trying to say? Is it the teacher who cannot understand or Ella who cannot understand? Okay, so it's not clear. Let's go to the better version. This is Mr. Rojas listened to Ella and he did not understand what she was trying to say. Here we are clear. So we now know that the antecedent of he is Mr. Rojas and the antecedent of she is Ella. Easy, right? Another technique is the repetition. This is the intentional use of a word or phrase to emphasize a point. It's usually present in songs. Look at this. These are some of the words from Bruno Mars's Count on Me. Okay? If you ever find yourself stuck in the middle of the sea, I'll sail the world to find you. If you ever find yourself lost in the dark and you can't see, I'll be the light to guide you. So you see there, the writer repeated the phrase, if you ever find yourself. And finally, one way to achieve paragraph coherence is by observing logical order. This refers to the organization of details used to support the main idea of the paragraph. You can organize your details based on this. First, by chronological order or arranged by the time sequence. You can use these words to indicate time sequence: yesterday, last year, in 2020, in the morning, in the afternoon. So, basically about time. Spatial from the word space, arranged according to space relationships like near, far, inside, outside, left, right, top, bottom. Okay, I believe that's very self-explanatory. You can also achieve logical order by observing importance, arranged based on significance like most important, least familiar, most familiar, and others. And finally, by sequential or procedural order, by arranging the things according to the step-by-step process like first, second, third, lastly, secondly, thirdly, and so on. Now that we know what a paragraph is and how to make a good one, let us talk about our main topic, that is paragraph development. Make sure to listen carefully because surely this will be beneficial to you. Many of us are finding it hard to write essays. But actually, if you will learn about the different patterns to write a paragraph, it will be easier for you to write one. So the patterns of paragraph development simply talk about the ways we can discuss topics in our paragraphs, the ways we can write our paragraph. Okay, beginning with the first pattern, and that is narration. Narration is a very, very common but very, very easy way to develop a paragraph, to write a paragraph. So as we have said a while ago, narration is simply telling a story or recounting an event. It can be an extended narrative or a long episode that by itself illustrates or supports an essay, thesis, or brief narrative of a shorter incident that is often used in a body paragraph. So simply put, when you're making or using the narration pattern to develop paragraph, all you are doing is that you are telling a story. So if you know already the topic and you thought of a story that you think is a good way to explain the topic, use it. Tell that story. It can be personal or something that you heard about. And sometimes you can actually invent stories to fit into the story or to the topic that you're writing about. Now, here are some things you need to remember to write effective narration. First, determine your purpose. What is your purpose? What is your reason for telling this story? Is it important that you tell a story about this topic or not? Second, select an appropriate point of view. The point of view is about how you tell the story. Are you speaking from the first person point of view? Meaning, are you telling it by yourself? Like, when I was young, I was told by my mother that I enjoyed eating a lot. Meaning, you're telling the story based on your perspective, on yourself. That's why you're using I, my, and other pronouns denoting to yourself or pointing to yourself. Or you can also tell your story by the omniscient or all-knowing point of view, meaning you're just a narrator. You're not the character of the story. You're not a character in the story. You're just a narrator. You're just telling the story. Okay? Third, follow a logical time sequence. Of course, a story always has a beginning and an end, and you should always try to write your stories in the logical time sequence. When did the story happen? When did it end? Okay? Chronological. Fourth, use details to present the setting. How can you describe the story? Use vivid descriptions rather. If you are going to narrate a story, you have to make sure that it is effective. You have to make sure that your readers can clearly imagine the story you are telling, because if not, your writing or your paper will not be effective. It will not hook the attention of your readers. Fifth, Make your characters believable. Who are your characters? Why? What do they feel? How do they look like? As we said in the fourth step, we have to use vivid description. So you have to make sure that your characters are believable as well. That they are clearly explained. They are clearly described in your story. And finally, use dialogue realistically. What important did the character say, or what is something that's important that the character say in the story? If there are important dialogues, but if there are not much significant dialogues you have to put in your story, it's okay. You can just say the story as it is. Okay? So again, the first pattern to write a paragraph is by telling a story. Another step or another way to develop your paragraph is by description, meaning you draw and create a picture using your words. So it can be a picture of a person, a place, an object, a feeling, or event. So description is basically describing. You're just describing something or someone. Okay? It uses careful selection of details to make an impression on the reader. So, example, the topic is your mother. The topic of your essay is your mother, and you have already told a story about your mother, and then you're going to write the next paragraph, and you're thinking of what else you can write about your mother. So you can use this pattern, description. So you can just describe your mother, clearly describe your mother. Okay? Here are the things you need to remember to write effective description. First, identify your purpose. Is it an objective description or subjective one? Meaning, are you going to describe your mother objectively? Objectively means factual based. Facts based only. Like age, height, hair color, skin color, anything that is verifiable. Something that we can be correct, something that can be checked. Okay? Or you want to describe your mother subjectively, meaning based on your perception of her, based on your impression of her. Like she's a loving mother, she's an imperfect mother, but the right mother for you, or things like that. Okay? Second, use specific details to describe clearly. As we have said, when you're making descriptions, you have to make sure you use vivid descriptions, because we are trying to create a picture in the mind of the reader about that person or that thing. So you have to make sure you use specific details. And select only appropriate details, meaning what dominant impression do you want to give your readers? If you're writing an essay about your mom, what do you want your readers to remember about your mom? Because you can describe your mom in different ways, about many factors, about many aspects of her life, of her being, of her soul. But you have to think of one thing, one specific thing that you want the readers to remember about her. So you make sure that all your descriptions leave that impact to your readers. Third, we have definition. If in description we describe the topic, in definition we define it. We give the meaning. So we give the meaning of the term or concept. This can be used to provide an interpretation of a vague, controversial, or misunderstood term, to explain an abstract concept, to define a new or an unusual term, or to entertain by presenting the interesting history, uses, effects, or examples of a common word or expression. So definition is used when your topic is something that requires definition, something that requires provision of meaning. Meaning, guys, definition is what you should use if you think your topic is unfamiliar to the audience, or if you think there are things the audience are not aware about the topic. Example, your topic is about wild animals. Maybe your audience are already aware of some facts about wild animals, but you can also put some things or some facts that they do not know about it. Okay? Why are they called wild animals, for instance? What is the meaning of wild? What is the meaning of animal? How can an animal be considered a wild animal? And others. So here are the things you need to remember to write effective definition. Know your purpose again. Are you giving a clear and objective definition? Of course, as much as possible, because this is definition, meaning give your readers a reason to read. What do you want to tell them that they don't know? Since we are defining, we are considering, or we are thinking that the audience or your readers do not know these things. So you think of a reason to make them read your paragraph. Third, keep your audience in mind to anticipate and avoid problems of clarity. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? Who are you writing that paragraph for? And finally, use as many strategies as necessary to clarify your definition. Okay? I have here an example of a definition. You have to remember this, that a good definition should include the term you are going to define, of course, because you cannot define without the term. Second, the class or the group to which the term belongs to, and the differentiating features or what makes it different with the others from the same class. What this means, guys, is that when you define something, when you define a term, you have to make sure that you define it clearly. How? By first mentioning its genus. Genus means its class. Generally, what is it? And then finally, putting there the differentia. Differentia means the distinct feature or distinct meaning. Example, you are trying to define dove. Dove. So you would say dove is a bird. So the definition dove is a bird there is an example of a genus, meaning it's the class. It's the general definition of the dove. The general definition of a dove is it's a bird. Now, what makes the dove different from other birds? So that is the differentia or the differentiating feature. Understood? Look at this example. Overshare. Overshare is the term we're trying to explain here. Overshare is an act of divulging excessive personal information. Okay? So, the yellow details here, the details here in yellow is our class or group. It's the general definition. Overshare. Oversharing means the act of divulging or revealing excessive personal information. Okay, generally it means like that. But what makes overshare different from the other ways to divulge or reveal excessive personal information is that overshare refers to divulging excessive personal information in blogs or in broadcast interview, prompting reactions ranging from alarm, discomfort to approval. Okay, so again, overshare is the term we are trying to explain, and then act of divulging excessive personal information is our class or group where the term belongs, and then as in blog or broadcast interview in orange there is our differentiating feature. Okay, please to understand. Let's go to the fourth pattern or technique in developing your paragraph, which is exemplification or example. It illustrates a concept in real world terms and provides readers with an image of a concept that they can relate to. Example can make general statements specific and more convincing because they explain and clarify unfamiliar, abstract, or difficult concepts for the readers. Exemplification or giving example is one effective way to explain a topic because when you make example, when you provide example, you think of things that your readers can relate to. Okay? Because you will not give an example that your readers cannot relate to. Okay? For instance, your topic for the paragraph is about extrajudicial killing. Okay? There are many stories about extrajudicial killing, and then in one of your paragraphs, you have already discussed or defined it, what extrajudicial killing means, and now you're writing another paragraph, and you had decided to make or to use exemplification or example. So you can just make, or you can put one paragraph explaining an example of an extrajudicial killing that is popular to your audience, that they know, so they can relate. Example, the story of the boy. I forgot the name of that boy. He was all over the news during the extrajudicial killing days of our country. I think that's Kevin. Okay, let's say it's Kevin. So you can put in your paragraph the story of Kevin as an example of the extrajudicial killings. So again, an example is a relatable thought for your readers to better understand the topic. So how do we write effective exemplification? First, provide the readers with additional insight with examples. Are all my examples relevant? Syempre, you have to make sure that your examples are important, are connected to the topic. And then, persuade your readers through your examples. Are my examples well chosen? Of course, you have to make sure that. And then, explain your point with enough examples. Are there enough examples to make each point clear and persuasive? Because the more you give examples, the more your arguments become persuading or believable for your readers. We also have here the fifth pattern, that is classification and division. Here, we simply classify and divide the topic. So classification is grouping a number of things into categories, sorting a group of similar subjects. So I think that's very easy to understand. Division is the opposite, where you divide one subject into subparts. As easy as that. Okay? I think this is very self-explanatory. So classification and division is writing a paragraph that classifies the things related to the topic or divides the topic into parts. Example, your topic is about diet. So you can classify diets according to the food intake. There are many types of diets. So you can divide, or you can classify those diets by the food intake, by what food are allowed to be eaten by the person doing or observing the diet. Okay? Here are the questions we need to remember to write effective classification or division. So what is your basis for grouping or dividing the subject? Why do your audience need this information? Because if it's not important, I think you don't need to classify or divide the topic anymore. Okay? Let's go to the second to the last pattern, that is comparison and contrast. This is a very easy and very convenient way to develop a paragraph, to write a paragraph, by comparing and contrasting. Comparing and contrasting is simply similarities and differences. It's just like that. So comparison shows how two subjects are similar. A contrast shows how two subjects are different. So people compare and contrast in both writing and life. Comparisons serve two purposes: to explain the differences between subjects, or to persuade the readers that one subject is superior than the others. So when your topic is something that is associated to another one, you can use comparison and contrast. For example, your topic is weight loss. Let's say your topic is diet. So you can compare and contrast diet with exercise. So what's the difference between losing weight through diet and losing weight through exercise? Okay? So comparison and contrast. These are the questions you have to put in mind to write effective comparison and contrast. First, Identify similarities and differences. Of course, you cannot compare and contrast if you don't know the similarities and differences. Second, state your points. Why are they similar or different from each other? And choose a pattern to organize your paragraph or your essay, because we are comparing and contrasting. We are looking at the similarities and the differences. Therefore, you should expect that your paragraph will be quite filled with information. So you have to think of how are you going to put in your paragraph the similarities and the differences. You can use this pattern. This one. You can use the block pattern or the point-by-point pattern. In the block pattern, you discuss the similarities in one paragraph and then all the differences in another paragraph. That's the block pattern. Meaning, you have one paragraph for the similarities and one paragraph for the whole differences, for all the differences. While on the point-by-point, you compare and contrast the topics depending on the point, depending on the focus. For example, you're trying to compare and contrast President Rodrigo Duterte and President Ninoy Aquino. So you can compare them point by point. First, leadership. How are they similar and different in terms of leadership? Or another is their personal information. How are they similar and different in terms of age, in terms of height, in terms of health, and others. So point by point. Okay? Unlike in the block pattern, you discuss all the similarities in one paragraph and all the differences in another paragraph. Okay? And this is the last pattern of paragraph development, which is the cause and effect. If in the comparison and contrast, we look at the similarities and differences, in the cause and effect, we look at reasons and outcomes. In the cause and effect, we analyze the reason or reasons for an action, event, or decision, and we analyze the resulting consequences to support a point. So we focus on why things happen, the causes, and what happens as a result, the effects. Now, how do we write effective cause and effect? First, limit your writing to a discussion of recent major causes and effects, because there may be a lot of causes and a lot of effects that can be discussed in your topic. So you have to limit it to the most important causes and effects, to the most recent or the latest causes and effects. Okay? Second, organize your paragraph or essay clearly. Because again, if you're discussing causes and effects, we're talking about logic here. There should be logical order. Okay? How are you going to write your essay? Are you going to discuss first the causes and then the effects? Or one cause and then its effect? And then one cause again and then another for its effect? And finally, convince your reader that a causal relationship exists by showing how the relationship works. You have to make sure that when you use the cause and effect, you clearly explain the relationship between the cause and the effect. Because if not, it will not be an effective one. It will just be a confusing one. Okay? You can use these patterns when you're making a cause and effect paragraph. So you can discuss the causes and then what is the effect of that. Or maybe you can discuss one cause and what are the effects of that. Okay? Example, your topic is global warming. So you can discuss there a lot of causes of global warming. What are the reasons why we experience global warming? Or maybe you can discuss about global warming and what could be the effects of global warming. Okay? So those are the pattern. Here's also another pattern of discussing cause and effect. This one. Okay? So we have here the cause and then what is the effect of that cause, and then the second effect of that, and the third effect of that. Example there. The cause is you reviewed very well for your exam or for your lesson. The effect of you reviewing very well is that you remember the lesson. And then another effect is that Because you remember the lesson, you were able to answer the exams. And because you were able to answer the exams, the last effect is that you got good grades. Easy to understand, right? So again, we have different patterns to develop our paragraph or different techniques to write our paragraphs. So if you are aware of these patterns, you can easily write your essays because you can make your essays using one of these patterns for each of your paragraphs. Again, we have narration, telling a story, description, describing, creating a picture of that thing or that person in the mind of your readers. We have defining, giving the meaning, the class, and the differentiating feature. We also have comparison and contrast, similarities or differences. We also have cause and effect, the reasons and the outcomes of things. We also have exemplification or giving example, and we have classification and division, where we classify and divide things about or related ideas about the topic. That's it for today's session. Thank you guys for staying with me until the end of this video. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel to be updated for our next session. Once again, I am Sir NJ Javier, and this is Reading and Writing Skills for Senior High.